for the rest of the country rather than adopting people. Also that, as I was told, only by obviously the people who will be working for this, that no students, students are just going to have to kind of not covered, and that's where we are right now. And that's why I call forward. So
thank you for bringing that to our attention. Any questions? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Lowest fine? Lowest fine here? Apparently not. The last person that we have signed up to testify is, excuse me, just a second sheet here. Maureen Beck.
Good morning. As way of introduction, my name is Maureen Baca. In my personal life, I served 15 years on the North Reading School Committee and hold a lifetime membership at MASC. And I'm here today in my professional capacity as Director of Public Policy for Mass Family Institute. And I'm here to testify in support of House Bill 4094, an act to ensure quality education. Unelected bureaucrats are making sweeping changes to our education system without input into the process from you, legislators, from local elected school committee members, parents, and teachers. And as such, there are many unanswered questions, and we're here today to ask that you pass this so we can get some answers before we move forward or make changes. Why is Massachusetts making such sweeping changes? Who's going to pay for this? How are we going to provide the required technology to all schools? And I would also urge that you would support the technology bonding bill that's moving forward. However, that bill, according to information received from MASC, will not provide infrastructure to every district, and it does not include the hardware, the computers, or the professional training required for teachers to instruct children as young as kindergarten on how to move forward and move back on a computer screen. So we have some objections. We object to the way it was created. We object to the lack of funding. We absolutely object to the loss of local control. And we also have serious concerns about the unprecedented monitoring, collecting, and sharing of private student and family information. The Family Education Rights and Privacy Act at the federal level was recently changed. It allows personal, identifiable information such as name, address, social security number, attendance, test scores, learning disability, and family information to be recorded and shared with government agencies, researchers, and private companies. Parents and certainly legislators were never informed that by signing on to Common Core, this private data about children and their families would be shared. I thank you very much for your time, and I especially thank you for putting this bill on the docket late in the season, because that demonstrates to constituents that you're concerned and you're taking this serious, and I thank you for that.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Becker?
Dr., if you could just be so kind as to provide the committee with any specific citation that you can about the change in federal law that, as you stated in the files,
Yes.
personally
Absolutely. Thank you, Senator.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we will move to the next person who signed up, Linda Noonan.
Thank you very much. I'm Linda Noonan. I'm Executive Director of the Massachusetts Business Alliance for Education, and I've given you copies of my testimony. MBAE is committed to a high-quality education for every child and was instrumental in the development of the 1993 Education Reform Act, so our commitment to high standards, to accountability, and to equitable funding has been a very long one. We oppose this bill. We think that it is an unnecessary and perhaps detrimental intrusion into a process that has stood us well for 20 years. The legislature has authorized the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education to set high standards and to direct the commissioner to a process that we have followed for 4 times since 1993. Every time that new standards are implemented, there are problems, and the people who testified today have pointed out some very, very valid issues that need to be addressed. However, most of them have nothing to do with the implementation of Common Core and Park. They have to do with other administrative and managerial decisions made at the district level or even at the school level. We do not think that that stopping at this time would make sense for the teachers who have worked very hard to implement the Common Core. In a recent poll, 70% of math, English language arts, science, and/or social studies teachers responded they were enthusiastic about the implementation of the Common Core in their classrooms. 74% of math and English language arts teachers said they would have a positive impact on students' ability to think critically and use reasoning skills. We know that we have a problem with higher ed remediation in Massachusetts, with high rates of students passing MCAS, graduating from high school, and not being able to earn college credits. We know that 69% of employers in Massachusetts are struggling to fill positions. This is a step towards college and career readiness. And if I could just take my remaining time to point out that some of the things that I heard today are actually have been shown to not be accurate. You can go, don't take my word for it, although I'd love it if you did. You can go to politifact.com. It's a Pulitzer Prize-winning fact-checking service of the Tampa newspaper, and they have there all of the things that have been said that are just not factual. So I really urge you, I know this is emotional, I get emotional about my kids. I was on a school committee and know what it feels like, but I'll just pick out a couple if I could. PARC is not an unfunded mandate, it's just like MCAS. Cost was mentioned as $30. I'm told that it's $30 for both English language arts and math. MCAS is $46, so there actually is cost saving. The technology challenge is a real one, but if this is what's going to drive us to get to where we should be and having technology in our schools, so our students who use it outside of school are prepared, then I say all for it. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for your testimony, Ms. Noonan. Are there any questions? Yes.
Is your organization opposed to the bill in its entirety, or just the portion on stopping the funding, holding it, stopping it from the standpoint of, as opposed to the accountability and doing some of the, more of the due diligence as in conjunction with continuing forward, but
Sure.
Let's have some more reporting and things along those lines, so we're able to make sure it's not an unfunded mandate, or prove it one way or the other.
Thank you for that opportunity to clarify. We basically agree with all of the things that are asked for in the bill, but we don't think we should stop the process that's underway, because that's how we're going to develop the information that you're looking for. And so, for example, in Massachusetts, we are, the board and the commissioner basically said, we won't make a decision about the next generation of assessments until November or fall of 2015. And what the Gates Foundation actually said was that we should have a 2-year pause on high stakes consequences from these assessments, which is basically useful teacher evaluation, because we need to field test it. Now, we field test MCAS. Every single, and somebody mentioned accountability, PARC not counting. Well, there are MCAS questions embedded in every MCAS test to test those questions. They don't count. But because of the fact that PARC is so different from MCAS tests basic skills, and PARC is testing how our kids apply their knowledge. MCAS was designed as a floor of basic skills and proficiency that our students could have. Unfortunately, over time, it's become a ceiling, and it's too low a bar. And so with PARC, it's interactive. Students get asked questions as they go, and they may get harder if they're doing well. It gives teachers really valid information on which to base instruction. There are going to be assessments that teachers can use on their own schedule to inform their instruction and help kids learn. And I think that's what everybody wants, and that's why I started by saying I think some of the things that are attributed to Common Core and PARC are attributing a little bit too much power. And I also would say that some of the allegations about conflicts of interest and who's funding things are frankly insulting, because none of us sell our souls for so low a price And, it really impugns the integrity of people who have done a lot of research, a lot of valid work, and are really trying to be very factual.
Madam Secretary, you mentioned that since the adoption of the 1993 Ed Reform Act, the state has gone through 3 or 4 rounds of revision to the curriculum framework, and there was some remarks earlier in the hearing today about the lack of public input and transparency. I'm wondering if you can speak at all to the process that has been used the prior times we've revised the curriculum framework compared to this time.
I'm happy to do that. Somebody from DESE might correct my dates or my understanding, but to the best of my knowledge, the process has always been one where there were framework committees composed of educators from across the state and from higher ed. Actually, in the last round, we were asked to provide some people from industry who could talk to what do kids need to know for entry-level jobs who participated. Those curriculum committees met, they talked to their colleagues, they developed standards. There were public, I believe, actually I'm not going to say there were public comments. I don't know what the comment process was, but there's a comment process. They're discussed at board meetings. It's very much done in public. And for the process for the Common Core was that it was, well, actually I should say, I believe it was 96 and 97 that math and language arts were revised, then again in 2001, and again in 2004. In 2008, committees were convened to do another revision. That revision was almost complete when Massachusetts was asked to join with other states who had voluntarily decided to work together on college and career readiness standards. Their associations, the National Governors Association and the Council of Chief State School Officers, agreed to provide staff support and facilitation. Those standards, Massachusetts, everybody came to Malden. Massachusetts' revised standards, not the old ones, but revised standards were used as a model. And in fact, I think we should be proud of that, and we should recognize that. And then MBAE, because of the fact that we took our position very seriously, we commissioned WestEd, an internationally and nationally known organization, to study those revised standards and the Common Core. All of the other comparisons were done with the old standards, not the ones we would have adopted, and they found comparability. They found some superiority in areas of strategic thinking in math and persuasive writing and reading of complex texts in English language arts. So MBAE and 6 other employer organizations testified to the Board of Education that we thought adoption was in the best interest of our children and our economic future.
So just to restate, to make sure I'm understanding this correctly, well, let me ask you two more questions. So did you observe any notable difference between the prior rounds of revision and the 2011 round of adoption of the new standards and Common Core?
I didn't, because after the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education decided to incorporate that Common Core into our standards, they formed curriculum committees who wrote Massachusetts curriculum frameworks that were issued in 2011 through the same process as had been used previously, and those are the ones that have been adopted. And as I said, there have been 3 surveys that I know of educators, one done nationally by Primary Sources, a scholastic company which also disaggregated by state, one by Teach Plus and one by the Mass Teachers Association, and all of those found very high marks from teachers. Anecdotally, we hear from teachers that they have more flexibility, they don't have to be on the same page of the same book on the same day as every other class, they can move according to their kids' needs, they feel that their kids are working, they're thinking more critically, and they're working in ways that really engage them in their education. So I know that there are problems. I know there are some districts that are really struggling, but that's part of the implementation process. We need to address those issues.
Just kind of a follow-up to that point. I just kind of want to clarify a little bit from the standpoint of someone who was on school committee, active with MSC. There's a huge difference between completely going to park in entirely new program, and entirely new standards, entirely new, way the whole system's being rolled out and everything like that, as opposed to before, corrections, additions, updates that has taken place with MAS, with MCAS over the past, dozen years. And it's, the updates for the most part have been relatively minor in comparison to completely. It's not like they rewrote the MCAS and created an entire new system, a new product, and everything like that. It was more updating for curriculum, for testing ability, there was a special education component, things along those lines that they tried to add in and make it more accessible for inner city. They were addressing a lot of flaws in it and trying to improve it. And I think that it's well, I understand what the point you're making is that it's a living, breathing thing that we're moving forward on. I think it's substantially different from an entire new system that's coming in and replacing it altogether.
Well, I think that in any kind of evolution, you can sometimes reach a point where putting more bells and whistles or making adjustments just doesn't work, and you need a new vehicle. We went from the stagecoach to the car and to the airplane because we can't always get places easily and effectively with the old model, no matter how much we tweak it. And I think what we see with the MCAS is it's a bubble model. It's a fill in the bubbles. I don't know any place in higher education or in the workplace where kids are being asked to fill in bubbles. It's an archaic and antiquated skill. But they are being asked to use electronic equipment to compose essays, to respond to things, to show their work. And those are the kinds of things that they're doing outside of school. And so it's really a matter of catching up. We are behind on our investment in educational technology in Massachusetts. For a high-tech state, it is really putting us, it's just not necessary. It's ridiculous. And yes, it's going to be expensive, and yes, it's going to be an adjustment, and yes, it's going to be a change. But, unlike some of the speakers, I don't see this as something that has been imposed on us. I see this as something that we have been very involved in leading. I see it as a plus that our commissioner is involved at a national level in leading and making decisions on CART. I think that our board has made a wise decision to wait until all the evidence is in and then make a decision in 2015 about whether to use CART or whether something else, whether it isn't good enough and we need to develop something on our own. That's the direction we have to go in.
Representative? Thank you, Madam Chairman. I just have one question. Given your statement that this is, we know it's expensive, we know it's going to take resources, we know we have to do that. My question to you is this the best use of unlimited resources for education?
I'm going to leave that to the educators. And if the educators tell me that this is going to improve instruction, that this is going to assist kids who struggle to learn, that this is going to give kids who are advanced a chance to excel and accelerate, that this is something that's going to equip them better for higher ed and the workplace, I believe that they've done a good job. They know what they're talking about, and certainly the experience in other sectors is that technology has, it's had some ups and downs. I mean, you're looking at somebody who didn't know why anybody would pay $12 to FedEx overnight. I was like, what's wrong with the mail? So I'm not somebody who just says, let's go to any new, and I don't think the people I represent are either. But, this is what our educators are saying is working, and we're seeing it not just in Massachusetts. People talked about how well we've done. We have, but we're leveling off. We're not accelerating. Other people, Tennessee went up 21 points in the NAEP. They're on a trajectory to pass us if we don't do something to keep up.
Thank you very much for your testimony. The last person that will sign up to testify is Allison Rubin.
I'm submitting this testimony to you on behalf of nearly 60,000 supporters of Stanford Children, Massachusetts, regarding an act to ensure quality education. We oppose Bill 4094. We fully support implementation of the Massachusetts curriculum frameworks to ensure all students are prepared for success after graduation. The Common Core state standards establish a set of clear, consistent guidelines for what students should know will be able to do at each grade level in math and English. In addition, the PART tests are high-quality, computer-based K-12 assessments in math and English language arts that will give parents, teachers, and students better information on whether students are on track to be successful after high school. These assessments help ensure every child is on a path to college and career readiness. The Department of Elementary and Secondary Education has issued a cost analysis for implementation of the test. And while further guidance is needed, we do not believe it's necessary or even productive to now look backwards. This bill would require assessment of the total cost for development and implementation of MCAS since 1993. It would also require a procedure to be put in place for the repeal of the 2010 decision of the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education to adopt the Common Core standards. During a time when we need to remain committed to implementation, backwards-facing policies would be detrimental to students progressing in the Commonwealth. We know our public schools are currently the best in the nation. What has made them that way is relentless commitment to quality, forward movement, and high standards. However, we can't take for granted that we'll always have the top schools, the best students, and the highest test scores. Our students' reading skills have fallen to 14th in the world, and more than half of Massachusetts students fail to read proficiently in the recent National Assessment of Education Progress Exam, often known as the Nation Report Card. At this critical time, it is important to embrace better standards and skill-based assessment. Please oppose the bill. Doing so will signal an important commitment to ensuring every child graduates high school, college, and career ready. Thank you.
Did you also wish to testify?
Yes, please. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman and to the committee. My name is Brandy Oakley, and I am the outgoing Boston Director at Stand for Children, but more importantly, I am a graduate of the Boston Public School System, a former educator for several years in Baltimore City, and a former practicing attorney. I know I've moved around a lot. I come to you this morning really just to add a personal touch because despite how I may look to you, I was a part of the inaugural class that piloted MCAS back when it was instituted in the late 90s and early 2000s. And what I can say, having gone to college at Syracuse University, there was a program for students primarily of color, first generation college, where they had remedial classes over the summer because they hadn't been well prepared in high school. And to be perfectly honest, Syracuse is not a regional school, so these were kids coming from all across the country. The need for PART, and more importantly, the need for Common Core is very real in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and it's very real across the country. I have members who are parents, members who are educators, and the fact is our population is very transient. Gone are the days where someone may be raised for 15, 20 years in the same city or state. We have folks coming from California, from Alabama, from Minnesota, and all the standards are completely different. And parents, quite honestly, are confused when their child was performing so well in one school district, moves to another state, and they're doing poorly, or vice versa. I know that change is not easy. I know that it can be uncomfortable, but someone asked the question, who pays for it? And at the end of the day, we as society, as taxpayers, pay for it. Students who haven't been well prepared when they go off to college, to private universities, public universities, and they're paying again for classes that they already should have taken. Being a public defender, I did juvenile defense in the city of Atlanta and also public defense here in Boston, Massachusetts. And who pays for it? Overwhelmingly, more than race, more than economics. The number one factor in all of my clients that I represented criminally was the fact that they had not had a quality education. They dropped out, they weren't prepared, and thus made life choices that they pay the consequences and we fiscally pay the consequences for as well. So I come to you today just asking you to think about the bigger picture and the fact that this isn't just about dollars and cents, but truly lives are at stake if we delay the implementation of Common Core. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions you have? Representative?
I'll ask the same question I asked the student, are the organization against the bill in its entirety, or just the funding aspect of it, part of holding back the funding as opposed to continuing on with the research and the determining the cost and the projections and things like that.
We can appreciate that it is very costly, but we are in support of progressing, moving forward in implementation.
Okay, so regardless of whether, so you don't even want to have any of the findings or your requirements, you just want to, your organization wants to move forward with PART.
yes, I mean, I think in the long run, we would save more money based on if we implement the park.
Any other questions of the panel? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Everyone who has signed up to testify has now done so. Is there anyone here who did not sign up or whose name has not been called? Thanks.
Thank you. My name is Bonnie Johnson. I'm from Boylston. And I just came in to listen. I don't have a prepared speech. Didn't expect to speak about this. But I heard a few things that definitely caused me to pause and think back. I've been to 2 forums where people, the park educators, including the Department of Education, have come through to Chicopee and to Boylston. And they have sat with teachers, they've sat with parents, students, and overwhelmingly, especially in Chicopee, where the teachers were there, the teachers said that the park test is not friendly for IEP students, or I don't have the right words here, but they are, that the technology is things they as the teachers don't understand. They can't teach their kids how to do it because they have had no or very, very little training on it. And the tests were coming up, and these teachers were really nervous about it. And they were not feeling that their kids could handle the type of questions. They put questions up on the board. They showed us. And these teachers sat there going, my 3rd graders can't do that. My 6th graders can't do that. That's an inappropriate question. But there is no way in this to weed through those type of things. So I would disagree that this is, I heard nothing from any of the teachers saying that this was going to help students that were at a different level. I also, I guess the other point that I wanted to make was they talked about how they had gone out to teachers and done a survey, and I heard Linda Noonan reference this survey, and it was a scholastic survey, state or country-wide, that maybe a very small percentage of teachers responded to. I look at the New York State Teachers Unions, that overwhelmingly 60,000 teachers, or I don't know how many, there's probably a lot more than that, overwhelmingly said they did not support this program. We need to look at this versus the very small, limited sample that came through in that scholastic. I heard that fact thrown out at this other forum also. I am absolutely for slowing this down. It's going way too fast. We have our kids' education, we have one shot. Ask any child who learned the whole language how their spelling skills are today when we took out phonics. It isn't worth it. It's not worth the risk. Slow it down. A couple of years won't matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. And if there's no one else who wishes to testify, we will now close the hearing on page 4094. Oh,
Could I speak?
certainly.
Janet Aldridge from Hamilton, and I also have a project coalition for the public records, the archive project, and that's why I'm here. And I'm really supportive of having these meetings, being transparent, which would have been great if the House broadcast had taped this, then it could have gone around the state and we could have had a much wider conversation. So I do not support this. I don't support Common Core. I don't support any of the changes to the educational system in the name of progression. Okay, it's not progressing. It's regressing. And I'm hearing 28 states are voting this out. So I think we, just because Massachusetts likes to be, the head of the race, it doesn't mean we're really going the right way. So I reject this.
also learn technology, which is cutting edge, but if we get a nice big EMP attack, you know, all this technology, we're going to have a bunch of idiots. Okay, so that's my comment. Sorry, thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Before we close the hearing, I did want to make note for the record that we have received written testimony in opposition to the bill from the Massachusetts Teachers Association and from the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents. We will now close the hearing on the bill and move to an executive session.
Will you be returning? Okay.